So, you want to learn how to fit stays? Good, because I have an 18th century stays pattern that needs to be fit to a real body so we can make the most fabulous, spookiest, witchiest pair of 18th century stays for Halloween. And since every era of stays is looking for something different, and fitting stays is different for every person because every person's body is different, let's talk about what makes this particular era of stays fit properly. The ideal silhouette changed subtly all throughout the 18th century. The Cassandra stays fit in what I kind of think of as the mid-18th century silhouette. With a long, conical torso, the stay should be smooth all around with no visible wrinkles. It has a high back, straps that tie to points as far toward the underarm as comfortably possible. The bust line should bow outwards with some but not a ton of compression. So think out, not up. It should feel like a warm hug, not like the stays are trying to squeeze the life out of your diaphragm. While some people with squishy torsos may experience a small amount of waist reduction, don't expect it to minimize your waist circumference. It's not built for that. And finally, we want a nice, even lacing gap. The best place to start fitting is on your physical pattern. I call this the pattern and math stage, or stage 1. What you want to do is cut off the seam allowances of all your pattern pieces, then line them up and physically measure so you have a better idea of how the pieces fit together. You should also measure from your underarm to your waist, then compare that to your own personal measurement to determine whether the stays are the correct length for you or not. It's good to do this before you cut out the fabric, since most bodies are not standard block sizes. I gotta be honest with you, I can't do math on camera. I have all the calculations rolled up in my head, and then I turn the camera on and all of a sudden my brain goes, cookie? So I measured everything, got it to about the size I wanted, and cut out an initial mock-up. I did an initial mock-up with just fabric, no boning for this pattern, just to see where we were and get an idea of how this was going to fit. It was a disaster. I put that thing on and it just immediately started melting off my body. It was like an ice cream cone in the middle of summer. So you're not gonna see any footage of that, and we're gonna make some adjustments on the center front before we do anything else. The first thing I did was to add about 3/4 of an inch to the top of the neckline. Now this is a common modification that I have to make on stays and bodies, specifically to accommodate for the size of my bust. Most of these patterns are made for a B cup and I am an F cup, so even adding space doesn't necessarily account for body shape, right? These are the kind of modifications that you'll learn to do on your specific patterns as you're doing mock-up and as you're gaining experience with corsetry. I also decided to add a little extra space in the bust just to be on the safe side. I was getting almost a 2-inch gap already on both the front and the back, but adding boning is going to change the size, and I just would rather work with a little bit more and shrink it down than have to add later. So I added a 1/2 inch on the side, and then I added another 1/2 inch in the center front and tapered it down to the waist. And with those changes made, then we can go ahead and do our real mock-up version 1. Immediately, we've got some issues. I'm getting jabby-jabbed in the pits, which is definitely not good vibes. This part is also sticking out wide, and I think maybe I made a mistake in extending that part upward when I extended it up at the bust. And then there's the back. That's not what our lacing gap should look like. I went ahead and used a Sharpie to mark my waistline. These tabs, according to the instructions, are supposed to break 1 1/4 inches below the natural waistline. Regular viewers will not be surprised that they are not breaking 1 1/4 inches on my short-ass waist. And yes, I did shorten the waist a little bit before I even started during the paper and math stage. Hobbit Dolly Partons in the house. Now we need to deal with the gaping waist. Remember, a little goes a long way in corsetry fitting, so I started with 1/4 inch on the side seam and then drew a gradual line out and then back in. Next try on, it's looking better, although this tab is cut just a little too high now, but the main issue is still in the back. Note that I am looking for about a 2 to 3 inch gap here to accommodate size changes, but the top is just way too large on my narrow back. So the natural next step, take it in at the back, of course. And also, fold over the tops of the seam allowances so the boning will stop poking me. Up to this point, I have been very strictly following the directions of the pattern by trying to fit from the back forward. But I had to stop because every single try-on that I've put on, I have been so incredibly uncomfortable in the center front that I haven't been able to make any intelligent decisions about the back because I was so uncomfortable in the front. So I went ahead and I extended up the center front to accommodate for my Dolly Parton bust. I feel so much better. This just goes to show that you should absolutely trust your instincts over the instructions. So let's do a spin. Definitely have a lot of issues in the back. I am getting some serious pinching here, and I'm pretty sure it's because the waist is just too short. And as much as I don't want to do this, I think the next step from here is going to be to take this off, transfer the changes that I've already done, i.e. extending up the center front, getting rid of my extension here, taking in the center back a little bit, and then shortening the waist by about 1 inch and doing a full second mock-up. Not ideal. It's a lot of extra work. I've got plenty of time to finish these, so we're gonna go ahead and get it done and get them done correctly. Yesterday I transferred all of my markings from mock-up number 1 onto my pattern. Words cannot express how little I want to now recut out all of these shapes, redraw all of the boning channels, re-sew all of the boning channels, and redo the fitting process. You're someone who is intimidated by this process and just gets so discouraged when having to go through this over and over again. You're not alone. But this is the thing that we have to do to get something that fits us right. So I'm gonna try and knock out all of the cutting and the boning channeling this afternoon so that I can move on, because I have 3 other pieces I have to construct for this costume, plus an entire bustle gown I have to finish before August. What percentage of those 2 costumes do you think are actually finished as of the airing of this video?
Arr, you mateys! I'm feeling very nautical this morning.
All right, rally the motivation, y'all. Let's get this done. Good news, that made a huge difference. I'm feeling much more supported at the top, which is great. The back is fitting me a little bit better. I'm still getting some spread at the bottom here, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm using ribbon as my tie instead of tape. It doesn't want to stay. So I've been wearing this for about 2 hours. I ate lunch. I feel pretty comfortable. I am getting some buckling right here at the center front, especially on the lacing strip itself. I don't know if that has to do with a fitting issue or if it just has to do with the fact that this isn't tacked down. That is going to be a problem for the 4th stage of the mock-up, i.e. the mock-up using the final fabrics, as that I'm sure is going to change when I have more layers and they're stronger layers. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. I am still getting some pinching in the center back. I do think it has to do with the length of it. I'm reluctant to shorten the center back anymore because your waist doesn't change position from the front to the back, and that would mean I would have to shorten it everywhere, and I don't think I need to shorten it from about here forward. So I think it might be something that I can rectify by cutting up the tabs. And I am wondering if this is slipping a little bit, if when I have some kind of strap up here, if that will relieve some of the back tension or not. So I think the next step is to take this off, fix the pokey stuff, fix that, and add some straps so that I can get a feel for how this is going to fit on the final make with the straps before I make any more decisions about shortening or lengthening the back. After reviewing the other footage, I just could not get past
the way that it looked. And I decided that it was way too long in the front and way too short in the top of the back. So I put this aside for a couple of days, hemmed and hawed over it, asked some other people who have a lot of experience in this particular era, including the creator of these stays, and we all agreed that yes, we needed to make it shorter in the front and make the top higher. So to do that, I just cut down 1.5 inches and rounded it off in the center front. And then the back, I did it the complete lazy way and literally just cut off a chunk of my first mock-up, hand tacked it onto the top, and cut it to about 1.5 inches. Not the most ideal way to do it, but I really wanted a good idea of how it looked without the commitment of tearing everything off and redrawing the boning channels.
Thank you to everyone who's supported me over on Ko-fi. If you have the means to donate, please consider checking out the page, which I've linked to below. Everything goes straight back into keeping this channel running, and I'm getting close to announcing my next project over there. I think it's one folks are going to be really excited about. Alternatively, you can always say hey in the comments and give this video a nice thumbs up. If you couldn't tell by the way I sound, I've been fighting the plague for the last 1.5 weeks, so some extra smiles in the comments would not be remiss.
All right, so let's do a spin. So I've got a nice even gap in the back as well as in the front. I measured it, so it's about 2 inches here. Definitely the next thing get off my foot, get off my foot. Now the next step is to cut down the boning where we can. I will not be able to cut down the boning in the back pieces because of how I tacked on the top. And then go ahead and get my straps on, because once that happens, it is, as you can see by pulling at this, it's gonna totally adjust where the waist is.
With the straps on, I wore the thing for some time and decided that things were pretty alright, and all that was left to do was transfer the changes to my pattern, and we were good to cut it out of the fashion fabric. That concludes all the fitting work, right? Wrong. Your work, my friend, is not finished. There's still one more stage that needs to be completed if you would like perfectly fitted 18th century stays. Stage number 4, the final fitting stage. When your stays are almost completely assembled from the real stuff and you're ready to be effing done with your project and move on to the next, you're ready for the final fitting stage.
Gratuitous twirly shots.
Don't skip this step. This is the most important one because
we are using the actual materials and everything has changed. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here. This is quite comfortable, but as I expected, it is quite a bit larger than my mock-up. Now, partially that is because of the size of my boning channels in relation to the size of my boning channels on the other one. I was very messy with the other one, so a couple of the back pieces I had to make a little bit larger just to get that boning in. The other reason is because this is made out of a linen base and a wool cover. The mock-up was cotton canvas and cotton muslin, which has considerably less give than woolen linen. Woolen linen is going to be the most flexible of any of the material combinations that you'll use. So if you're making an all wool or an all linen pair of stays, then you're gonna have a lot more give than if you're using just cotton. I am experiencing quite a bit of discomfort at the top because my boning is poking me, and I can't decide whether or not that's because it's too high or if it's just because the boning is escaping. I'm also experiencing quite a bit of discomfort right here because the stays ripped at the seam while I was putting it on and I was too lazy to take it off and fix the seam. I'm going to take the center front in by 1/2 inch on each side. I'm only going to take it in at the front because I'm quite satisfied with where the line of the seam is in relation to how my body curves.
All right, folks, let's adjust the poking boning once again. And then baste over the top for the sake of comfort.
Oh, that's so much better. That one change made a huge difference in my lacy gap in the front, and I feel like the width of this is doing pretty well. However, I am experiencing some extreme pinching in the back. right here, right at the waist. This tells me that these stays in the back are way too long. So I went ahead and drew another waistline, and I'm gonna go ahead and measure down 1¼ inches from the waistline, cut the tab up to there, and then we'll see how it feels.
After reviewing my footage with the ribbon straps, I decided that they just weren't going to cut it with the particular shape of these stays, and I was going to have to stuck it up and do a strap, even though I hate stay straps. I have only a tiny amount of purple fabric left over though, so we'll use test fabric first and hope to the gods that we're not gonna have to piece this thing.
Cutting up the tabs helped a lot. I'm definitely going to have to trim the tabs down a little bit in the back because they're super long, and I think I'm probably gonna have to do a little bit of trimming down here as well. They're not quite perfect yet. We're not quite to the point where I'm going to wear these all day and make the final determination as to whether they're ready to be completely assembled yet or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a couple of more changes off screen that I'll talk about in the actual stays making process, and then we'll come back and see if we're ready for the final fitting. Woo! All right, with the straps pulled up, most of the discomfort that I was feeling is gone. Yay! Except when I sit down, the center front, at the top, and the bottom. So I think the next move is to add some more eyelets. I think I can add another set here and another set up here, because what's happening is I keep wanting to tug it up and I don't feel like I'm being supported at the very top of this, even though it's hitting me at the right spot. So I think one extra little zigzag of cord should help that. Otherwise, it's pretty comfortable. I will still need to probably make a few tweaks after I fix that, but for now, I think this is where I'm gonna leave it for this video, and we'll do all of the very final, very fine tweaks in the final video when I actually show you how to make the stays.
Woohoo, we made it, folks! Things were looking dicey there as to whether or not I was actually going to get this baby out in time, so thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you're ready to see us make those witchy reversible stays, you can check out this video here on the screen. Or if you're watching it as it's gone live, YouTube is telling me you would like to see this one next. And you can subscribe and hit the little notification bell if you would like to be notified when the final stays video goes live. Thanks for watching, I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.